Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wa salatu wa salam wa assalamu alaikum, and welcome to Fiqh Al Muamalat online classes. And today we'll be talking about Fiqh Al Muamalat and its integration in Islamic finance application, whereby we'll be talking about Fiqh Al Muamalat scope and Islamic finance scope. Then we'll see the kind of relationship and a kind of integration between the two. Let's start by saying that if you look at the Islamic finance applications, being in Islamic banking or in Islamic capital market or takaful, you will see there are many products and services offered to the market. But if you look carefully, you will see that those products and services are governed by specific Sharia contract. Of course, if you look at the product, you will see, you will be focusing as a customer, how is the product works, how it functions, basically looking at the features, the description of the product, the objective of the product, the requirements, and so on and so forth. But if you zoom carefully, and especially this is from the Sharia compliance standpoint, from the Sharia audit standpoint, from the Sharia board standpoint, also from the regulations and the law standpoint, those products and services at the end of the day are built upon specific selected contract. So being in the deposits, being in the financing, being in trade financing, being in wealth management, being in a general takaful, being in a family takaful, being in a debt market, being in equity market, whatever segment in the market, at the end of the day, that specific contract, that specific service is built and designed upon specific Sharia requirement. This is why you will see kind of integrations between the applications of Islamic finance, whereby there are products and services, they have descriptions and features and objective, and there are specific Sharia contracts which are built, or those specific Sharia contracts which basically govern and monitor the product and services, and those Sharia contracts, they have rules and principles that are applicable and apply as well to those products and services. So when it comes to the determination of the Sharia compliance status, when it comes to the functions of the Sharia officer or the Sharia auditor, so basically they will review and scan and examine those products and services according to those specific selected contract. If you just give an example, if you look at the deposit side of the financing, so what you will see, if you look at the chart, so basically on the left side, you will see a list of product and services. On the right side, you will see a contract, Sharia contract, and you see kind of mapping, meaning that each contract or each product is mapped against specific Sharia contract. Sometimes you will see a flexibility whereby one product could be designed based on one more than contract. For example, you see it in the saving account, in the current account. You will see it especially in the car financing, you will see it in the home financing, whereby a product could be designed based on more contract. Clearly, you can see it in the Islamic capital market, in the sukuk, whereby you can see that sukuk could be built and designed based on more than 14 types of contract. If you look at the IFRS standards, standard number 17, you can count more than 14 types of sukuk that are built based on each specific contract. So the result of that is that each product behaves according to that specific contract. So if product is based on ijara, so we are talking about lessor and lessee and the rules of ijara. If it is built on tawarruq, we are talking about buying and selling and rules of tawarruq. If we are talking about mudaraba, we are talking about capital mudarib and capital provider and mudarib, and we are talking about the specific rules that govern the mudaraba and so on and so forth. And as a result of that, what you can see, you see that the relationship between customers and bank or financial institution keep changing based on the mapping, based on evolutions, or based on the specific selected contract. So it is not one single position. There are various positions. Sometimes bank could be a lessor, could be a lessee, could be a partner, could be capital provider, could be a mudarib, could be a buyer, could be a lessor, could be agents, could be principal. and the least open could be agent, could be principal, and so on and so forth. So meaning that the position of the bank, and as a result of that as well, the relationship between the bank and the customer will keep changing. Even though if we assume and give a scenario, an example, if a customer has, for example, two facilities, one is car financing based on ijara, and one mortgage based on musharaka mutanaqisa, for example. So same customer has two different relationships with the bank. One is a relationship of a lessor or a leasing in the car financing because it is designed based on ijara or lease. And the other one is another relationship between based on partnership whereby there is a musharaka mutanaqisa, hence the contract of musharaka will be applied. So that is a very unique feature when it comes to Sharia contract or to Islamic finance because of the underlying principles that govern the applications of Islamic finance. And this shows how strong is the relationship between the two, how integrated the two fields of knowledge, Islamic banking and Fiqh Al Muamalat, through their Sharia contract. And of course, you have to know that each contract, as we are going to discuss in details, each contract has specific rules. And hence, if you select specific contract, that contract will determine the relationship between the two parties. They have specific terms and conditions, they have specific rules, determine the responsibility, the accountability, and so on and so forth. So this is a very important, that shows how important to understand what's so-called how important to understand the contract, and how important to understand the mapping. Because if, let's say, a home financing is built upon partnership, and another product, which is the home financing, the same one, open or built, sorry, upon, let's say, a tawarruq or built upon ijara, so the assessment of each one is different. Why? Because the rules are different. Term and conditions are different. The relationship between the two parties are different. So you cannot apply one single set of checklists on everyone, but each specific contract has its own checklist in order to what's so-called examine the product, and in order to ensure what's so-called the Sharia compliance status. Just one point to add here is that some financial institutions, they have more than one product design, or they have one single product designed based on more than one contract. Especially we find this in the deposits, for example. It could be, for example, the investment account or deposit could be based on mudaraba, could be designed on musharaka, could be designed on wakala bil istithmar. If you take the home financing would be designed based on istisna, based on tawarruq, musharaka mutanaqisa, and murabaha, and ijara. So 6 contracts. And the same goes for what's called the car financing. Could be based on murabaha, could be based on ijara, could be based on partnership. So what you see sometimes one single product could be designed based on one product in the same financial institution. So there is no obligations from a Sharia, there is no obligations also from the regulator to select specific contracts. So it's up to the financial institutions based on the criteria of risk, based on the features and the privilege that they determine which is the right product or the best product or the best contract to map it or tag it against specific what's so-called a product and services. So it's an option for the financial institution. Sometimes the Sharia board approves 3-4 contract for one single product and services. Up to the financial institution to push or to market whatever they want based on their basically strategic marketing and their recommendation and advice and best practice in the trend of the market and so on and so forth. So I think this is the what's so-called the major points that I would like to highlight. Just to re-emphasize on one last point, again, the mapping is very important. It is understood that each products and services in the financial institutions is mapped against a specific Sharia contract. And when it comes to the legal documentation, when it comes to the compliance, when it comes to the relationship between the two parties, when it comes to the terms and conditions, when it comes to the accountability, responsibility, and so on and so forth, basically it is determined according to that what's so-called specific Sharia contract. And when it comes how the product behave according to the rules of that a specific contract. And if the contract change, so the product change its the entire set that we have mentioned, responsibility, you know, terms and conditions, and so on and so forth. So this is a very important point to understand, that enforce and strengthen on how strong is the relationship between the what's so called Islamic finance application and Sharia contract. With that, thank you very much, and see you inshallah soon in the coming session. And assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.